Man, what's going on? A little bit of a different setup today, but I just want to highlight something that catches out some of the most elite extreme sporting men on the planet out. And it is the focus, it comes from the focus of being hyper disciplined in a certain sport. Now, with rock climbing, unless you're in the UK where you can climb in any weather conditions, simply travelling, 30 minutes max, you can find a rock climbing wall where the rock is good in the wet, it's good in the dry, and all the different conditions. Or if you're a wakeboarder who can only wouldn't waste their time in certain wind conditions, or if you're a surfer who has to go out when the tides are absolutely amazing, they cannot not do it, or if you're a martial artist who goes to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, when you get locked in to these disciplines, it's like you're completely captivated and nothing else matters in that moment. When you're on the wall, when you're developing your martial arts, when you're free running, skydiving, like when the visibility's good, when the weather's good, skydiving, you just want to develop your skills. And is there something wrong with that? Well, you know, to be the best you can be in these areas, you need to develop your skills, and you need to learn, and you need to. The only way you're going to develop is if you do more of that thing. Now, the problem is these disciplines tick pretty much every box in anything that we would ever want to do with our lives, any pastime. We have to problem solve every millisecond. The hormones associated with the development, the hormones associated with, the fear of failure, failing, learning from your mistakes, the social side of it as well, going on the wall with your mates, multi-pitch climbing, unbelievable. Day out, day away from the family. There's just so much benefit, right, to enter these rabbit holes. And they are literally the best thing. They're the best thing ever. But could you ever say that you're getting greedy? Now, what I mean by this is, if I said to you now, if you could do martial arts every day of your life, without the family, without any financial implications, if you could do martial arts, rock climbing, free running, skydiving, kayaking, mountain biking, if you could do that every single day of your life, if the conditions were perfect, would you? Now, the reason I say this is because what would happen to your body if you were to do that? And that pretty much brings me on to this channel. The whole purpose of this channel is the hormones that you get from doing these sports, doing these disciplines, is unrivaled. They are literally the best thing in the world, and I completely agree with you and I empathise with you. And one of the hardest things to do is think long term. You want to just be able to get that, that technique down. You've been stuck at you've plateaued technically for months, and you just want to get through that. And sometimes it's not about technique. Sometimes it's just about fun, going out, having fun. But if you're not looking after your body, you're putting a time limit on the amount you can, the decades in which you're going to be able to do this. And it's very hard, honestly, very hard. When all you think about and all you talk about and all you're looking at on the internet is the discipline in which you're doing regularly, the thought of going and getting strong joints resilient joints. To add another decade onto your, mountain biking career by going to the gym, not really problem solving much, counting to 10, controlling the tempo in which you're doing these movements, training hard, nowhere near as fun, and arguably it requires a fraction of the intelligence, the brain power, the processing power, the ability to problem solve, the fear, the risk. There's not much risk when you're in the gym. Barely any risk at all when you're in the gym. And this is one of the problems. Because there's no risk, there's no elevated adrenaline, and very easily overlooked as being boring. And if you can develop the ability to appreciate when you're doing these disciplined sports, extreme sports, you become, how do I explain it? Things that normal people would find exciting, you just become numb to that. It's like, because you've got like an elevated tolerance of stress. So then to bring that back down, some people might find going to the gym is exciting, but because you're up here with your, tolerance to stress and problem solving, this is it's revolting. Safety, being indoors, not having to problem solve, just having to focus, being bored. But this video is a challenge to you, because there is a beauty about the art of being boring. Now, I'm not saying your life has to be filled with boring things. However, the importance of going to the gym, doing the boring thing to increase the capacity that you have for decades to come, which is overall going to result in you being able to do skydiving for longer without shoulder issues. It's going to improve the amount of time in which you can do rock climbing for without elbow issues. It's going to improve the amount of time you can do martial arts without knee issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, do the boring thing now. And if you're being honest with yourself, like, not everybody is in the UK and not everybody is blessed with an abundance of different rock, all within a 20-minute, 30-minute drive. So if you're in the US, you have to travel 3 hours to go to a certain type of rock. And if that rock is not available based off the weather today, tomorrow, this week, then you are pretty much rendered useless for that week. And what I see a lot of is men that just don't do anything. They will just go to the climbing wall. They will do it indoors. These opportunities, you must shift focus and get yourselves in the gym. When you are in the gym, you can control all the variables. Now, of course, mountain biking, rock climbing, wakeboarding, surfing, martial arts, skydiving, you aspire to control all the variables. You aspire to get to such a level of technique where you can be free and express the art forms, the arts that you are doing. But also, like, you want to be in control. That's the aspiration. That's the chase. It's the psychological chase. And yes, these are great goals, and I'm not saying there's a bad thing. It's just about when you're laser focused, you lose the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is the amount of time in which you can do these things. Because if you enter the realms of training twice a day for the next 6 months, what are your joints going to be? What state are your joints going to be in the next, you know what I mean, after that? Do you know what I mean? And the reason your joints are going to be like that is because you cannot control all the variables, and you cannot strengthen your joints through a full range of motion when you're on the rock climbing wall, or when you're mountain biking, or when you're skydiving. The demands in which you put yourself through, and I have no issues with that, are very, very stressful on the body. And yeah, there is definitely a beauty to just stepping back and going, if you get yourself in the gym, you can have full control of all the variables, the exercises in which you choose, the intensity in which you train at, the speed of your repetitions, and the amount of reps you're doing. Just wait for that. And yeah, the importance of it is pretty obvious. Like, you will know in your little circle who the guys who are always injured, what age do people start slipping away? It's like, I'm knocking it on the head now, I just can't cope with it. My body's just not what it used to be. You'll have these people in your circle. And what you will also have is you'll also have the people on the other side of the coin. The people that do go to the gym. And then they're still doing the sports. Something to think about, gentlemen, because it's a very scary thought when you've been doing these things for decades, 10, 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden they just disappear because you just physically cannot do them anymore. Or it starts like you can't do them as much, and then eventually you can no longer do them. And if you start now strength training, do you know what I mean? It could start at like one session a week, one full body session a week. If you can allow 2 sessions a week, great. Do 2 full body sessions a week. Work the joints. Don't worry about working the muscles. Too many people that rock climb will go into the gym and really prioritise the same sort of movements in which they do on the wall to improve their grip strength, their lat strength. And they don't focus on other areas. The gold standard would be to focus on the opposite of what the demands in which you're placing on your body doing these sports. When you go in the gym, you should be training the opposite, training the other areas, and just fully appreciate that in that 1 hour, for the first time, you're in full control of of all the variables. You sit there, you lock in, and for that 60-second set, you have got no distractions. And when you're doing these things, there's always something that will take you off, and that's why these things are so enjoyable, because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes there's always an element of surprise, there's always an element of luck, and there's just so much hormones. But the logical thing, bang, is being in control of all the variables. Once, twice, gold standard 3 times per week. And it's just that shift of focus. Wakeboarding. What's the wind like? Is the wind low? Cool. I'm going in the gym. Rock climbing. What's the weather like? Is the weather bad this week? I'm not going to go into the indoor wall. I'm going to go at the gym. You've got technique and you've got physicality. Physicality is going to improve your longevity. This isn't talked about very much because there's a lot of praise to be given to men that are still doing these disciplines. There's a lot of praise to be given for men that do these disciplines in the first place. However, once you enter these rabbit holes, very hard to jump out of the rabbit hole and think, oh shit, my knees are getting weak now, my elbows are getting weak, I need to strengthen them. Joint pain means that it's starting to get weak. Your joints are starting to struggle to cope with them demands. Do you know what I mean? So the gym is amazing for supporting this. Hopefully you appreciate what I'm saying. And yeah, this in a nutshell is why I created the longevity program. But, you know, if that's not for you, this channel will definitely educate you on all of the methods anyway, for completely no price whatsoever, other than your time. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, gentlemen. A little bit of a different one today, but it's definitely something that is important, and it should be talked about more often. Take it easy, geezers.